Hello and welcome to the SCLD podcast. My name is Erin Dodge. I'm here with the Spokane County Library District as well as Spokane Is Reading. And today I'm talking to Kate Lebo and we're going to talk about her book, The Book of Difficult Fruit, as well as her upcoming author talks for Spokane Is Reading. And Kate, thank you for being here.
Oh, thanks for having me.
And I think, I just got to say I love your book.
Thank you.
And I think a lot of people are going to get something different out of it. There's so much in here and there's so many different, I really want to delve into the recipes and how you went about those, but
Sure.
What was it like writing so many different chapters about so many different fruit and your life,
Sure.
Combining them? What was
Well,
that
it
like?
took forever, right? So I knew that I wanted the book to have this A to Z structure to go
Okay.
from aronia to zucchini, though I didn't know what the Z was going to be.
Okay.
Zucchini became the obvious choice because what other Z is there? So I had this roadmap, right? I had
All right.
26 essays that I knew I was going to write for each of these letters of the alphabet. And then over time, I would just kind of pay attention to when fruits would come, when fruits would cross my path, basically. Because
Right.
you could easily go and just Google what's a fruit that starts with F, what's a fruit that starts with
Totally.
Z or whatever. But the more I cooked and the more I wrote, the more I got really interested in, how do I actually have a relationship with these foods? How do these foods truly come into my life, not just through an algorithm or through a Google search?
Right.
I think nonfiction writers in general get to, or maybe everybody that gets to confront the kind of glut of information that we have available to us on the internet, which is great, but that information isn't knowledge necessarily. It's not coming to us with its original context.
Or insights.
Exactly, or
Deeper.
insights. We're not understanding. I mean, just because I read about a rambutan, for example, doesn't mean I have a relationship or really understand that rambutan. Seeing a photo of it is not the same as finding one and eating one.
Right.
All that.
Right.
So there are limits to what can be found in books.
Well, and
online.
you even talk about it in the book, like when the Norton grape chapter, you're like, I wasn't going to write about Norton grapes, but here I am. And it was just like, I think your writing is approaches everything very honestly. It feels like, I feel like I'm in your world as you're writing and learning as you're learning, which
Trying
is wonderful.
to show my mistakes.
Well, I think that's also a really great part. We're all human and, here's where we're at. And here are some things that, half of these difficult fruits I've never even heard of until I read your book.
Cool.
So that's pretty cool.
And some of them are native to North America.
Yeah.
There were many, like the Norton grape. That's a great example. I was originally going to write about Noir, Pinot, and just kind of do some acrobatics to fit that into my
Right.
end section. And it turned out, as I tried to write that, I wasn't that interested in that wine. I think because it's so well known.
Yeah.
It's had so much written about it already. Trying to wade into this room of experts did not sound fun.
Okay.
To me.
Yeah.
But when a friend of mine asked me, have you ever heard of the Norton grape?
Right.
I was like, great. No. And I need something for my end chapter. Tell me more.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And then the recipes I found them unlike any recipe I've ever read before.
Cool.
In a good way. I felt like I was in your kitchen or out, picking the berry or the fruit with you, trying to figure out what's the one to pick and when is it ripe and when is it going to work. And I've never had that experience with any kind of a regular cookbook or, it's very methodical
Right.
written and the instructions are very, but with you, I feel like you're holding my hand or I'm there with you and you're like,
Cool.
okay, but you got to watch for this. It's very intimate, I think. So I really wanted to know, sorry, I'm just blathering on.
Tell me more about what you liked about my book.
But I really wanted to, right? I mean everything. But what I really wanted to know is how do you approach recipes? Because it looks like you put in a lot of time and work. Like you said, it took you a long time.
Yeah.
I just think the different recipe parts would take a long time.
Oh, yeah. No, at some point I realized that I had proposed 2 books as one, that there are 50 recipes basically in this book, and there are 26 essays.
Right.
This could have been a cookbook, this could have been an essay collection.
Yeah.
But they're all mashed together, which was such a cool opportunity for the writing. So to remind me of your question.
How you approach writing your recipes? What are what entails?
Got it.
How do you go about it? Because
Yeah, so and I've written a cookbook. I wrote a cookbook
Right.
called Pie School. That's a more traditional, straightforward, how to make a pie book, right? And that really gave me a lot of practice with that genre as a writer of that genre. I'm a home cook, so I am well versed in cookbooks as someone who cooks from them.
Yeah.
And what struck me about that form is that it's very bossy. You go to a cookbook because you want an expert to tell you how to do something,
Yes.
so you get it right the first time, if at all possible.
Right.
And that's great. That's not a critique at all. That's just a kind of a genre element.
Yes.
And I loved that as a counterpoint to the essays, because as an essayist, something that's very important to me is to show my subjectivity, show the ways that I misunderstand, the way that I come to understand, but to have a counterpoint in the certainty and the expertise of the recipe was fun. It was kind of a relief. Like this was a space within which I was like, I do know what I'm talking about. I've made the mistakes on your behalf. We don't have to spend time on that in the recipe section because this is a practical document. We've got to keep this as short as possible. I mean, some of them are still quite long. But we've got to, I wanted to strike this balance between basically technical writing and very specifically describing how to do something so someone can be successful with it.
Right.
But then also including some of the lyricism that the essays point to, by which I mean just the things that can't be said about a dish, or the things that I can't control.
Right.
I mean, there's so much about a recipe, a traditionally written recipe, that has to assume that your conditions are like everybody else's conditions.
optimal.
Or that your food is like everybody else's food.
Right.
And that's just never true.
And these are difficult fruits, so
Yeah.
they're not easy to begin with.
Yeah, which really emphasized the way that's never true.
Right.
So these recipes then within this book became an opportunity to write recipes in a non-traditional way that embraced that variability.
Wonderful.
It was fun.
It came across as fun. Like it came across as if you really loved it.
Yeah.
I could see the love of creating the recipes, and also sort of the adventure in it. Right, you had to try lots of things to get the recipes to come out, depending on what you were working with. And you're pretty honest about like, okay, this doesn't make a good this or this, but hey, it makes a good syrup, know. And it's like,
you're talking about the medlar.
The medlar.
Oh, that was one of my favorite fruits. It just defied me at every turn.
The medlar. I was kind of cracking up
Yeah.
when I read that section, like in a very like, oh, this is enjoyable. I'll probably never do this.
Right. Well, you'll probably never find any.
Well, that too.
I do know some people in Spokane who are growing some.
Oh, wow.
Should you ever want to try one?
Okay.
Yeah. You just sneak into their yard at night and get them before the squirrels do.
I have squirrels. Maybe I can train them.
Right? To deliver the medlar to you. Let me know how that works.
It's not gonna work.
Yeah.
Well, that's great. And now you're doing an author talk for Spokane Is Reading.
Can't wait.
This is the community-wide, I'm going to talk to you guys, this is the community-wide one book read that we do every year. We've been off for the past couple years. We've just had some book lists for you to read. And this year we're reading the Book of Difficult Fruit. And Kate's going to talk about this and a little bit more about than what we've been sharing today. And that is October 26th. And you can find out more about it at SpokaneIsReading.org. And any hints about what you might be talking about?
I would love to learn from audience members and talk to them about the difficult fruits that are in our backyard that perhaps we don't even know are there.
Yeah.
So there's a
That
hint.
sounds great.
Yeah.
So bring your questions about the difficult fruits in your backyard and you can talk to
And bring
Kate.
your weird fruit.
Oh, yeah. That's a great idea. We'll have to share that
I
on
wanna
social
see it.
media. Yeah. That sounds great. Yeah. Well, Kate, thank you so much for being here
Thanks
today.
for having me.
And
It's such a pleasure.
it's a pleasure for us
And
too.
it's amazing to get to share this book with my neighbors. I live in Spokane.
Yes.
This is my community. Super excited to get to have this conversation.
And I'm looking forward to it as well.
Yay.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to the whole day. It's 2 events, one in the afternoon, one in the evening. And thank you so much for being here. Yeah. And we'll see you guys next time.